What is going on, everybody? Happy New Year's Eve / New Year's Day, depending on when you're watching this. It's Andy. I'm back with you to give you some of my favorite selections for the No House Advantage Pick'em contest that's going on for Week 17. If you haven't taken part in this contest all season long, I really don't know what you've been waiting for. It's a fantastic platform, No House Advantage. It combines player props and fantasy and rolls it into one easy-to-use platform. There are two types of contests. The Pick'em contest, which we're going to be submitting picks for today, and there's also a Verse the House contest. In the Verse the House contest, you pick 5 player props, and if you get 5 right across all sports, you're going to make up to 5 times your money. But today, we're taking part in the Pick'em contest, where you pick players, you pick a prop associated with them. The more that you get right, the higher you rise in the standings. So if you go to No House Advantage using the description or the link in the description of this video, No House Advantage is going to match your first deposit up to $100. They started with $25, then they upped it to $50. Now it's at $100. So if you have waited like Vin Diesel and Fast and the Furious to use your NOS at the end of the season, you're going to be rewarded with a free $100 from No House Advantage if you deposit $100. So click the link down below, go there, and sign up for an account. Looking at these picks here, Week 17. I'm going to start with a game that not many people are going to be watching. You got the Falcons hosting the Cardinals. There's no Hopkins. There's no McCoy. There's no Kyler Murray. Not a lot of people are going to be watching this game unless you happen to be checking the rushing yards for Tyler Allgeier, and I'm going to take the over on his rushing yards. They've obviously been giving him a ton of work all season, despite Mariota being in, out. He, as the guy that they've trusted with the majority of the work in a game indoors against a team in the Cardinals who, let's be honest, they're checked out for the year pretty much. I think this is a great spot for him to top his rushing total, and the rushing total that they have him listed at is lower than what the sportsbook have him listed at. So if you're looking for an advantage on No House Advantage, that would actually be one of them. Then let's go to another game that not many people will be watching. 1, because of the teams involved, and 2, because the result actually doesn't matter considering the Jaguars have to face the Titans for the division next week. I'm going to take the over on Brandin Cooks receiving yards. Anytime you get him indoors in a meaningless game, there could be a ton of throwing in this game. This sounds like it could be one of those ruckus type of games where the results don't really mean anything, and they're just going back and forth trying anything and everything. And they got the total on Cooks listed. I would take this if it was week 1, 5, 8, indoors against an opponent you can throw against. I'm going to take the over on Brandin Cooks receiving yards. Then I'm going to go to Philadelphia, a game that's important for Philadelphia. Actually, it's important for New Orleans because they are technically still alive, so they're going to want to win this one. Regardless, I'm going to take the under 1.5 touchdowns for Andy Dalton. When you think about Andy Dalton, if you look over the course of the season, he has been just kind of I want to say complementary piece of the offense because he's not relied upon to do a lot of the damage, and especially after last week where they used Taysom Hill at a ton of snaps at quarter. You're looking at reduced snaps for Dalton on the road against the Eagles, who still need to win to get that 1 seed, and that pass defense with those cornerbacks, no thank you on the 1.5 touchdowns for Andy Dalton. I will be taking the under on that one. Then you got the Kansas City Chiefs against the Broncos. This is going to be in Denver after Denver fired their coach. In those situations, I always like those teams kind of rebounding and playing a little harder since a message was sent to the organization. And I think Russell Wilson's going to play a little bit above his level, but even more so, I'm going to take the over on Courtland Sutton receiving yards because against Kansas City, where you know you have to throw to keep up with them, you know if you look at the spread, they're 14-point underdogs essentially. I think it's a great spot to take some of the pass catchers on the Denver Broncos, especially when you see that Dulcich, he's out for the season. So you're really looking at those receivers, and I like the over for Courtland Sutton on this particular game. And then lastly, I'm going to take the under on Jaylen Waddle receptions. I know that sounds wild after he had that massive week against Green Bay, but if you rewind the clock to when Tua missed those couple of games earlier in the season, if you check the games when Teddy Bridgewater was in there, heavily targeting Tyreek Hill, not so much with Jaylen Waddle. He didn't really have that kind of connection with them, and maybe if he does, still, 4 or 5 catches is a lot. I'm going to take the under 5.5 on the road at New England with Teddy checkdowns in there. I'm not expecting him to repeat last week's performance down in Miami with Tua. So give me the under on Jaylen Waddle receptions. And those are the picks that I got for you here on Week 17 for the Pick'em contest. As always, if you don't like any of my selections, they don't really tickle your fancy, which is always an interesting saying. Once in a while, I look up where sayings come from. I want to know where, oh yeah, that tickled my fancy. Well, if Jaylen Waddle and my picks don't tickle your fancy, go over to Stokastic.com. They offer 100% free projections and optimal lineups for this pick'em contest. So if you despise Andy's picks, well, go check out the Area 51 picks. That's what I call the picks from Stokastic. I pretend, who knows, maybe this is where they do it. They're down there in one of the bunkers in Area 51 cooking up these optimal lineups, and they're giving them to you for free. So definitely check those out, and I will be back with you next week to talk about Week 18 Pick'em.